Hello everyone, in today's lab I'm going to show you all how to animate a bouncing ball. I'm going to show you two ways to do it. I'm going to show you one way with the ball rig that I have in the canvas shell, which you can locate right here. This will look a little bit different by the time you see this because I'll have an additional video for you. I'll show you how to save the file out as an MA file. I'm also going to show you how to do it without a rig at all. So anyway, getting back to Maya, make sure you download the ball.ma and then open up Maya, file, new scene, blah, 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 don't save. And then what we're going to do is we're going to import this file. Don't just try to open it. It might work if you just try to open it, but let's just do it this way. Let's go File, and then let's go to Import. We're going to locate the ball and click Import. Now I get this little error that says errors have occurred while reading the scene, that may result in data loss. Please check the script editor for details. Unsupported nodes error. It's because this was made in a much older version of Maya. I have had a couple students tell me that it doesn't work, but almost every single student, almost all of them, are able to get it to open and work. So hopefully file import. If that doesn't work, try to do file open, try to double click it in your your file explorer, your Windows Explorer, whatever you want to call it. But just to show you, I'm going to tap 6 on my keyboard so this way you can actually see it. And now you'll notice that I've got the ball with a little stripe in the middle. And I just want to show you a little bit real quick how it works. Actually, before I even get into that, we had that script editor pop up. We're going to go to Windows, General Editors, and this isn't part of the assignment. It's just a quick way to know how Maya works behind the scenes. And we are going to go to, if I can find it now, Script Editor. It's got that little icon right there. Okay, so Windows, General Editors, Script Editor. Click on that. You'll notice you have your script editor here. I'm going to go ahead and make it a little bit bigger so you guys can all see it better. And it's saying it's unable to locate mental ray options. Now, mental ray used to be actually the old Arnold renderer. So I don't know exactly what happened. I don't know if they couldn't come to agreement. I don't know if mental ray sold out to someone else and they couldn't have the rights in Maya anymore. So that's when Maya actually switched to the Arnold renderer. So with the files it's unable to locate or unable to recognize as the mental ray options, and that's because it no longer has it. This was created when it used to have a mental ray renderer, which it no longer does. So anyway, if this were created in today's Maya, this would probably say, it probably wouldn't come up with this, but this would probably be like AI Arnold render options or something like that. So anyway, you should be able to open it. It's going to tell you some things. Dedicated to caches at 90% less memory will run out soon, blah, 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 blah. So I'm just going to ignore that for now. And I have, it's going to show you everything that you do in here in your Maya file. So if I select here, I selected the -R, maybe that's for dash selection. I don't remember exactly what it means. The ball _ colon master control. So the object is the ball. The master control is the controller that we're selecting. And you can do all types of stuff with this. It'll show you how you move it. It moved 0 on X, 0 on Y, and 3 point blah, 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 blah on Z. So you can always go back and refer to your script editor also for any additional information in your Maya files if you're ever curious. Good for artists is that they don't have to worry about any of this stuff. Some really smart programming people made this software, have updated it countless times, and it allows people who are artists or even programmers, I guess you'd say, able to have a wonderful user interface while creating all of our works of art here in our 3D software. So Autodesk Maya, thank you. And anyway, that's the script editor. So if you ever see anything that pops up down here anywhere, that, you know, a pop-up window that says blah blah blah, you can always open up that script editor to see what's going on, and it makes it a lot easier to resolve any issues if you're going on Google to find out what the problem could be happening is. So just an FYI, I figured that's really good to know. Now back to the meat and potatoes of this lab. We are going to go ahead and animate our bouncing ball. I wouldn't recommend touching anything in the layer editor here, the channel box and layer editor. I would leave it exactly as it is. You're not able to actually select the ball. You can only select the controls on it. I'm going to cover what they all do. It's been a little while since the last time I used it, so I might need a refresher myself. But I know the master controller, just like on any other character rig, vehicle rig, any type of thing that you're animating that has a rig, the master control basically moves the entire object around. Very, very useful. Now, the two other controls we're going to be focusing on this particular lab are these little handles here. What do they call it? The ball up control and the ball, I'm assuming, down control, DW control. Yep. So what this is, and it'll only allow you to do things that you're able to, so like your XY, your translate X isn't here because it only allows you to move it on the up and down axes. Even if I try to, it won't, because it's locked, out of sight, out of mind. So with that being said, I'm going to select this up control and I'm going to move it up and down. And what this is doing is creating one of our core principles of animation, which is the squash and stretch. Squash and stretch. Okay, so a very cool little handle here. Super cool little basic simple rig. I love it. And then you can use it down here. Squash and stretch. Squash and stretch. Right? And then we've got this one, which is the orient control. So you'll notice my X, Y, and Z is locked. That's what that little light blue thing is. I'm going to leave it locked. I can show you how to unlock it, but you never want to. You would right click and go to unlock selected, but we're not going to do that. That's just so you know in future reference if you ever needed, or if you ever accidentally locked an attribute that you didn't want to. So anyway, now you know how to unlock it. Now the orient control, it only allows me to rotate on X, Y, and Z. So I'm going to highlight this, tap my E button, and show you not a whole lot is happening. Let's try it now. So now you can see I've got a lot of orientation happening. You just couldn't see it, and you'll notice that that white line tries to stay horizontal, like as horizontal as it can throughout the entire thing. So that's what the orient control does, and you can only see it when you're actually manipulating these controls. It has, just like any other rig, typically is going to be a maximum of 1, a minimum of -1. -1 being squashed, +1 being stretched. So, and then default is typically always going to be 0. I can't think of an instance where it's not, but I'm sure there's one that exists that I don't know about or can't remember right now. Same thing on the bottom. Those are your controls, and then you can do pretty much anything with the master control. I don't know if it'll let you scale it. It does not let you scale it, which is kind of a bummer, but it is what it is. We're not going to worry about it for this, but this allows you to move and rotate, and you'll notice that horizontal line now follows it, whereas this one, it doesn't. This is really just for the squash and stretch effect. So anyway, I find it to be a really cool little rig, especially for this particular use. I'm going to go ahead and get started, and one of the first things I'm going to do is I'm going to create a polyplane, and I'm going to scale it to be big. I think it's 24, fits the grid perfectly. And then I'm going to create layer from selected, and I'm just going to name it ground plane layer. go ahead and click save and rename this ground plane mesh. And then I'm going to just click this twice till it has a little R. So now I can still see it, but I can't select it. So I'm going to click this one once, twice for the little R. I can still see it, but I can't select it. And the V here for visibility on or off. So I'm going to leave it on just so I can see it. I can now also turn off my grid. I don't need it. Kind of replaces the grid. But either way. And with that being said, I'm basically ready to animate. You'll see that in my side viewport. I can't see the ground plane unless I turn on my grid. But a lot of this animation can be done from the ground plane, which is super cool. So we're going to make it as simple as possible. And down here, I want you to, this is the first time we're actually playing around with the timeline. But down here I've got little sliders. It starts on frame 1, it ends on frame 200. If yours looks different, you can change it. If I wanted to, I'm only gonna need like, not many, 50. But let's just say I had 200 frames, right? And I wanted to see just some particular frames that I was working on between like 75 and 124, whatever, right? Now you'll see my frame starts on 75, ends on 124, because I can actually slide the timeline larger and smaller to see finer details in my keyframes that I could set in there. So I just wanted to show you that. I'm gonna set this to 50. So now I have 200 frames in my scene, but I can only see on my timeline from frame 1 to 50. It can even do negative. So you can have negative in there if you needed to. It's not a good idea, just an FYI. And the reason being is that if you were to ever export an animation, the numbering system could get really weird. So when you go to render it out into a video format of some type, it might really be annoying and you might have to rename every single image file. So I always recommend starting on frame 1 and ending on whatever frame that you end on in your scene. So now let's get to animating. We haven't done, I don't know if we've done really any animating this semester, but we're going to get more into it during this part of the semester. So the second half of the semester, we're going to focus a little bit more on animation. You have the modeling techniques down. You know how to texture. You know how to model, merge verts, extrude. You know how to combine objects, clean up your files, etc., etc. Add new materials. You name it, you guys can do it. So here, back to the ball. I'm going to make this very, very simple. I'll start in the perspective view. I know that my translate Y is where the vertical axis is, basically. And I know that on translate Y, 0 is default, and that's my ground plane. So on my first frame, what I'm going to do, I'm going to start to just do the basics. I'm going to start by setting my first frame at 10, or on translate Y at 10. I can also, could have used my move tool. Now, I'm good with it right here. I'm going to show you just easy, simple ways to do this. Just tap S on your keyboard on the bottom right corner. Well, you know what? You guys can't see that very well. Let me do this. Okay, so my frame 1 is right here. All right, frame 1. This is frame 0. This is frame 1. So I've moved my ball up to frame, or on my translate Y to 10, and I'm going to tap S on my keyboard, and you'll see right here a little red line appears to create that keyframe. Now, I'm gonna do frame 20. I forget exactly what I have in the rubric. All I'm looking for, separate them by 10 frames each. All I'm looking for is to make sure that you know how to do it. If the keyframes I'm mentioning in the video are a little bit different than what's in the rubric, just make sure you're following this concept to be it's got to look like a bouncing ball at the end of the day. But try to keep it 5-10 frames, whatever I have written in there. So on frame 1, I have my y-axis on my master control to 10. On my frame 20, I want to move it down. So let me just show you what's going to happen. I'm going to move it down, and let's pretend I forgot to set my keyframe, because this is probably going to happen to you. And then you're going to be like, okay, I moved it, everything's good. And then I scrub through, and now it's back at the top, and it's going to drive you nuts. So you have to remember, when you move something on a certain frame, so I wanted it to be on I was on frame 18, I want to be on frame 20 to set your keyframe. Now, if I just tap S now, it's going to draw it in the, it's going to write it in the translate Y of my channel box editor, right? So I can't do that. I just need to click. I typically hold Alt middle mouse button click. It's just a really weird thing that I've just done over the years, because I don't want to deselect it because I need to create my keyframe there. But it allows me to enter the scene and tap S on my keyboard to create frame 20. Or if I need this to be frame 10. So let me show you another cool little trick. Going back to that middle mouse button movement. So I created it on frame 20, and I want to move it back, right? Well, I wish I would have created it on frame 10 instead. Now I could just do this. I could go 0, set my keyframe, and then right click and delete this, and now I have it done correctly. Now if I go back, so I have frame 1 and then frame 20, if I wanted to copy everything that's on this master control, whatever I have selected in this scene, I can hold my middle mouse button click, drag it to frame 10, tap S on my keyboard, and now I've just basically moved those attributes from frame 20 to frame 10. So that's another way to do it. Now on frame 20, I already have my keyframe set, but like I showed you, I could hit delete, blah, 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 and restart fresh. So frame 10, now on frame 20, I want to go to, again, I want to go positive 10 on my bounce. I'm going to hold Alt and just click in my screen somewhere or whatever and tap S. And now I've got my bouncing ball bouncing, right? Let me see. Oh, that's not what I meant to do. What I'd like to do there we go. So frame 0, frame 1, I'm just trying to make sure that you guys can see it on my screen as well. And I have it going out to frame 25. So now I've got my bouncing ball, right? It starts in the air, it drops on frame 10, and it goes up to frame 20. Now the next thing I need to do is I need to create a squash and stretch. Now this is pretty cool stuff, and really one of the core principles of animation. It's literally part of them. So now on frame 8, I could do frame 7. Let's do frame 7. We'll see a few more in between. So an in between is what happens in between two keyframes. In some cases, an animator may call it like A to X to B. So A is a keyframe, B is a keyframe, and X is the in between. So this is going to be our in between. Now, what I want to show you, what's going to be one of the most common mistakes I'll see, and hopefully this will correct it ahead of time, is that when I create this keyframe on 7, I want it to be stretching, right? I'm going to tap S on my keyboard. But now, I never set a keyframe on this controller on any of my other ones, right? So on frame 1, I want it to be 0 because I want it to be a normal size. So I have to go back and reset that. Now it's going to stretch on the way down. And when I get to frame 10, because I know that's where this keyframe is, on this one, I want it to squash. So I'm going to drag that down and tap S. And now I'm going to hit play. I've got the start of my bouncing ball. So I'm going to start on frame 1. It's going to start to stretch because of gravity, right? We're going to exaggerate it because we're animators. And now on frame 7, that's where my keyframe is. And this is where it's going to start to do its squash when it makes contact to the ground. And now bouncing back up on frame 13, keep it 3 and 3 on each side. I'm going to go ahead and drag that back up and tap S. So now it's squashing and now it's going back up and stretching, right? And now on frame 20, it's still totally stretched out, but because it's starting to reach that peak point and that reaction from the ground, now I want it to start to level out in size and become normal. I'm going to make my translate Y on my 0 and tap S on frame 20. And now I've just created a squash and stretch effect on an animation. Now if I right click here on my play button, right here, right click on the play button in the bottom right corner, go to playback speed, I have mine set to real time. I think that will help you, especially if you're going to play it back. Now I'm going to go ahead and click play. And it's going to pause for a few frames because I have it all hidden behind the keyboard underneath. But you'll see that I now have a bouncing ball. So right? So we've just created our first very basic, very simple, very effective bouncing ball animation. It's animating 101. Now instead of same concept in a 2D animation, if you're hand drawing this or using motion tweens or something like that, this essentially is motion tweens, but that's the concept of it, and that's really all I'm looking for. Now, I told you how that I would animate this ball without using the rig. Same exact concept, right? Except I don't have the rig to do all these fancy things. Like if I wanted to rotate, whatever. I just find it to be a cool thing to introduce you to because all animators typically are going to have some type of rig of some sort. Now this is going to take a few more steps, but it's okay. I'm going to switch to my side viewport. I'm going to start on frame 1. And I'm going to go ahead and drag this down just so it sits right there. This is probably one perfectly, and that's probably just touching the ground, and it is. So with that being said, I'm also going to drag this off to the side, and let's do -5. That should be good. And then now I've got the starting position. If I wanted to, I could do a modify freeze transformations. The other thing I can do, this is a cool little trick. I'm going to hold shift and tap I to isolate. I'm going to hold D and hold V, and I'm going to snap this down to the bottom, and it's going to just squash and stretch from that point. But it might get confusing, so I'm going to leave it in the center because I also, when I do my squash and stretch, I need it to go this way wider as well. And I want it to go wide in all 360 directions versus just the one. So anyway, if you did do it this way, holding D and V, I'm going to snap this down. When I scale it down, or scale, I would have to scale it larger and then to do my squash like that. So whatever is easiest for you, I'm going to leave it right in the middle for now. I think that might be easiest for everyone following along. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to animate this from my 2D orthographic front camera. And I'm going to start, let's do it from the side actually, so this way we can see. I'm going to start on my frame 1. My frame 1, because I already modified and froze transformations, I know 0 on Y is going to be exactly here. So on frame 1, I'm going to bring my y-axis up to 10. Now from here, I'm going to tap S on my keyboard. I'm going to go to frame 10. I'm going to go translate Y 0. I'm going to tap S on my keyboard, and on frame 20, let's go back to 10 and tap S on my keyboard. Now I've got frame 1, 10, and 20. Now when you compare them, when you're watching them, the one that's a lot more fun and exciting to watch is this rubber bouncing ball. Not just because it's red and has color, I can switch that. It's because it's got that that squash and stretch, those very appealing characteristics. So we're going to try to match that with our regular stagnant sphere just bouncing up and down. Now when I go to my sphere here on frame 1, I'm going to go back to frame 7. Now I want to match this one up a little bit. I don't mind if it's I'm going to scale it in a little bit from my center tool, and I'm going to bring it out. And I don't mind if it's not perfectly in shape or size to that. That's part of the fun. I'm going to tap S here. But now look. Oh, it did work. Okay, because I'm not grabbing separate controls. I lost train of thought there. I didn't have to worry about grabbing other controls to make everything the same because I'm selecting just the object. So I kind of had a memory lapse on that. So now on frame 1 to 7, it's going here, and then back on 10, it's matching the original shape. So I'm going to scale this larger. I'm going to scale it. I'm going to bring it a little bit smaller just so they're not touching each other. And then I'm going to drag it down to the ground plane and do something like that. And now back on frame 13, I'm going to set this to 1, 1, 1 just for visual reference. And I'm also going to scale this thinner and longer and tap S. And now I have my both my bouncing balls. I'm going to go ahead and click off and tap play. And you'll see I've got, they're slightly different. They have the same exact timing in terms of my keyframes A, B, and C, I'll call it, frame 1, 10, and 20. But on my in-betweens, they're just shaped differently. Even though they're both, I think, identical in terms of size of the circle or sphere, their stretching and squashing attributes are slightly different from one another. So they seem like, the one on the right seems like it takes a little bit longer to bounce, right? Although it doesn't. Because they're based on the same exact time, but just based off of those visual characteristics of the other one and the other one, it looks like it takes a little bit longer for the one we just animated without the rig to get back to the top. But that is our bouncing ball rig. Now I don't even know where the other one went. Let's hit stop real quick. Disappeared in my, oh, because I'm in isolate mode. That's why. I was like, what happened? And now you can see both balls bouncing. I can 360 around them, blah, 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 do little, the Matrix kind of camera turn if I wanted to. But anyway, that's animating the bouncing ball. If you do have questions, please don't hesitate to reach out to me. I'm more than happy to assist you in any way I possibly can. I hope this was fun for you. I hope it was useful. I hope you learned a lot. And please don't hesitate to message me on Canvas inbox if you have any further questions, concerns, technical difficulties. If you can't get that ball rig to work, just animate it as I did the sphere that I created later on. Now, I think that's it. I don't think I have anything else to cover in this video. I've covered everything I pretty much can think of. If there's something additional you want me to cover that I haven't talked about or done or anything like that, please let me know and I'll do that as well. But yeah, have a wonderful day. Hope you enjoyed the video, and thanks for watching, everyone. See you next time.